We recognize that the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society gathers on the traditional land of the Western Abenaki people. We respect the Abenaki's spiritual and life-giving relationship to this land. We seek to honor the living traditions of the Abenaki people, and we humbly hope to learn from them how we may better live in harmony with the land and our fellow humans.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to CVUUS, Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, our remote service. We're so glad you have chosen to be with us on this chilly last Sunday of October. As we transition from the very beautiful weeks of the early fall to the, shall we say, more austere months of late fall, winter, early spring. The end of this week, we will lose an hour of afternoon sun, but we'll pick up an hour of daylight in the morning to get us going. We will get by, as we always have, in this fraught and troubled time with a little help from our friends. I'm Carl Lindholm, the worship associate today and the service leader. Our minister, Barnaby Feeder, has a well-deserved break this Sunday from leading the service. He will be in this spot next Sunday, just 2 days before the election. He'll offer us strength and resilience and wisdom. And then the Sunday after that, he'll provide consolation and hope regardless of the outcome. Next week, I will be in your position looking on if I'm not in bed with the covers over my head, curled up in the fetal position, awaiting the election results. If you're with us for the first time or an occasional visitor, a special welcome. Do be in touch with us so that we can send to you our monthly newsletter. Those of you who have a milestone or passage that you would like shared with the congregation today, do write it in the chat function, and I will try to remember to read it. I'll be sure to do that. Please, all, join us at the end of the service for our virtual coffee hour. Just stay with us at the end, and Jordan will explain how simple that is. Now, pathways to connection. In the interest of time today, I will touch on just a couple of pathways to connection this morning. Do take a close look at the weekly blast for a fuller discussion and description of the many events and activities that bind us as a community here at CVUUS, and also to the larger community as well. Now, Reverend Barnaby is doing his new UU classes. They'll be starting next month. Current members are welcome to join any of the classes. Be in touch with Barnaby if you have an interest. The winter clothes giveaway at the Middlebury United Methodist Church is the donations portion is coming to a close tomorrow. So get your winter good clean coats, mittens, sweaters, winter pants, and so forth. And talk to, look at the blast. There's a number to call, Margaret Clock at 989-7363. And there's also an email address. So the blast will have that information for you. And celebrate next weekend's Halloween full moon, known to the Abenakis, as Falling Leaves Moon. The Native Moons group plans a bonfire at the Greenwoods. Contact Liam or Mike Greenwood for more information about that. Now, let us worship together. The call to worship today is by the Reverend Dr. Jack Mendelson, who in the turbulent 60s was the minister at the Arlington Street Church in Boston. And the sanctuary he alludes to, may that be the beautiful Vermont landscape of ours today. Here in this sanctuary of ancient dreams and wisdom and beauty, we come to grow, to be healed, to stretch mind and heart, to be challenged, renewed, to be helped in our own continuing struggles for meaning and for love, to help build a world with more justice and mercy in it, to be counted among the hopers and the doers. Here we invite the spirit of our own humanity and the healing powers under, around, through, and beyond it to give us the nerve and grace, the toughness and sensitivity to search out the truth that frees and the life that makes all things new. Now, after Reverend Barnaby lights the chalice symbolic of Unitarian Universalism, please repeat the words with me that appear on your screen. May this dancing flame inspire us to fill our lives with the Unitarian Universalist ideals of love, justice, and truth. Now, the worship team determined that this month, when Barnaby was not in the pulpit and leading us, we would do a service on restorative justice, as it befits our theme of justice this month, and this month's quotation of justice is what love looks like in public. The idea of restorative justice also connects closely to Unitarian Universalist values, in particular our first and second principles, the inherent worth and dignity of every person and justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Restorative justice is a theory of justice that emphasizes repairing the harm caused by criminal behavior. It is a different way of thinking about crime and our response to crime, requiring offenders to take responsibility for their actions and for the harm they have caused. Restorative justice seeks to redress for victims, compensate by offenders, and reintegrate both within the community, and offers the possibility of reconciliation. It requires effort by communities and the government. So this morning we'll have a variety of speakers offering brief reflections on the concept of restorative justice and how they apply its principles in their lives and work. The first is in our time for all ages. Poppy, our Director of Religious Exploration, is away this week. She's in Burlington attending the virtual LREDA, Liberal Religious Educators Association. She's at that conference with 3 other DREs. As she said in a note to me, we're doing it together at the Burlington Unitarian Universalist Church to make it feel more like a real conference. I've asked Tracey Harrington to offer for us a reflection in this space in our service. Poppy will be back next week to work her magic with the children and the rest of us. Tracey has been in education for over 20 years, 10 of which she has been as the principal at Ripton Elementary School. She says, I believe working with young children allows me to maintain a sense of faith and hope in the world. Working with kids also inspires me to try to fix this mess we're in before they get left with it.
Hello. Thank you for the chance to be a part of this service on restorative justice. I'm glad to be able to give our Time for All Ages message today, which is probably as much for grown-ups as it is for kids. The truth is, the kids know this already. It's the rest of us that sometimes forget. I was asked to think about restorative justice in the context of elementary schools and how we work with students who have broken the rules or acted in ways that are unsafe or unexpected. Thankfully, there's been a lot of progress made in the ways we respond to misbehaviors, both in schools and in mental health. Much more, I believe, than in other areas like law enforcement and corrections. What I believe and what I tell myself over and over every time a child struggles in some way is kids do well if they can. Ross Greene, clinical psychologist and best-selling author of many books, 2 of which I would consider essential for any educator, called The Explosive Child and Lost at School, which was first published in 2008, so it's not new, coined this phrase after extensive research and work with struggling children. The fact that kids do well if they can is what grounds me in my understanding of and response to incidents as they occur. When I was asked if we practice restorative justice in school, I paused for a second and replied, well, we use therapeutic approaches to behavior management. What does that mean? Well, I believe it means we consider the psychology of child behavior more than we used to. We apply as much from all the brain research that we can, which is totally fascinating. And we know, simply put, that challenging behaviors are the result of expectations being placed on a child or any person that the child or person lacks the skills to meet. It's not the desire to meet, it's the skills to meet. Kids do well if they can. If a child misbehaves, whether mildly or severely, it's because they're being asked to do something or expected to do something that they can't do. And more often than not, we just keep asking them to do it anyway, and then we get upset and blame them for being non-compliant, and then they flip out, which is an appropriate brain response. Justice, it would seem, is actually acknowledging the fact that we, the parent, the teacher, the principal, the police officer, are as much a part of the problem as the offending behavior is. Compassionate, caring adults will see that it's our responsibility to identify the lagging skills in children who misbehave and teach them. If we all went around believing kids do well if they can, or that people do well if they can, we would stop believing there are bad people, but instead acknowledge there are bad behaviors. Then we could focus our energy on correcting those behaviors. We could do this through collaborative problem solving, explicit instruction, and of course, therapy and counseling. We can do this when we share the common belief that people, all people, do well if they can. Thank you.
Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds Let us open our hearts to love one another, and may we walk in peace. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another, and may we walk in peace.
We are sharing our offering this week with the Vermont Food Bank. Please be as generous as possible in supporting their crucial work in our community. The following slides will describe a bit that work and explain how to make your contribution this week.
Now is the time in our service for meditation. When I think about restorative justice, I think about ripple effects. The Dalai Lama says, just as ripples spread out when a single pebble is dropped into the water, the actions of individuals can have far-reaching effects. And similarly, Amit Ray says, the ripples of the kind heart are the highest blessings of the universe. Let us enter into a time of meditation.
Restorative Justice. The first of our speakers this morning is Danielle Wallace. Danielle, thank you for joining us. Danielle has been employed by the Addison County Restorative Justice Services for 3 years. During this time, she's been the coordinator for adult and juvenile court diversion, the Youth Substance Abuse Safety Program, and she facilitates the Safe Driving course in May of this year. And in May of this year, she graduates from Vermont Law School with her Master of Art in Restorative Justice. Apart from her work with ACRGS, she teaches the Impaired Drivers Rehabilitation Program for Carter Incorporated and sits on the board of directors for the Turning Point Center of Addison County and the Addison County Community Trust. Danielle.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. After I sent Carl that introduction, I realized a big piece of where my passion for this needed change, I left out. I'm also a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder and have been on the other side of the justice system and have seen how that works and really seen how differently that is from where what my life looks like. So justice in the criminal justice system is very black and white. It's this idea of right and wrong, you know, guilty or not guilty. And that's not what my life has looked like. My life has been, I've lived most of my life, and what I've seen from this world is that most people live in this gray area where it's just not that simple. And that's what I have learned about restorative justice, is it's just not that simple. When I was released from the Maine State Correctional Prison in 2012, what I didn't realize is that I would never end the time I was serving because my offenses would follow me for the rest of my life. And that's, in Vermont, that's very different than it is in other states. But whenever I would go for a job, that would come up. Whenever I would want to go to a field trip for my daughter, that would come up. And our hope through our programs, whether it's diversion, which is before conviction, and the hope is to never have that follow somebody, to have that case dismissed, and to have the community decide what is really needed to repair this harm. And the people in the community are really best served to determine what really needs to happen so we're safe here. And we do that through volunteers, community volunteers, and meetings with the person that is affected, the person that is responsible, and really talking that out. And what I really love about that is that it's not just about repairing what's going on for the person that is affected, but it's also looking at like what is needed for this person that is responsible in order to do things differently, and that this doesn't happen again. So in that process, we really try to lift up and separate people from this one instance that happened in their lives. No one wants to be judged by the worst thing they've ever done. And that's that when it is a criminal offense that's been convicted in a court, you know, that's what's happening. This is one moment in someone's life that's going to determine the rest of their life going forward. And even when that is the case, when we're working with people that have convictions, the hope is to really work alongside of people to gain the skills so that they, whether it's to advocate for themselves, but to really get past those barriers and move on in a productive way, finding community service, finding out where we can be of service to other people. So for me, justice is about really having a safer community for all of us. My experiences with restorative justice is that it's much more possible than measuring justice by time and conviction rate. Everyone's pretty aware that as far as the punitive justice system, there isn't much rehabilitation, there isn't much change that happens while people are incarcerated or from, you know, a conviction in a court setting. And the expansion or the foundation of restorative justice is so wide that and so gray. There is no one definition of what restorative justice is. It's about these concepts of really that when wrongdoing happens, there are obligations that are created, and the community is best served to determine what are those obligations, and who needs to meet those obligations. So it's about getting everybody that's involved or affected together to have conversations, which is something that is really needed today, I think, especially with what's going on.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Thank you for those, yes, those stirring personal comments and the description of what actually takes place here in the local community where those services are. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Manya Butanev is our next person offering a reflection. Manya writes to me, I was a member of the Middlebury CVUUS congregation for several years until I moved to New York State 14 years ago. I am now a professor of research ethics and leadership at Monroe College, King Graduate School. I'm also a researcher studying public schools in New York State where students in poverty do well in order to learn what works for this vulnerable population. So, Manya, welcome back. We're glad to see you and thank you for offering this reflection.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to see some familiar faces. Thank you, thank you. And I'm here actually to talk about my amazing time as a panelist on the court diversion program that Danielle referred to. And as a panelist on the court diversion program, as she said, you have people come before you instead of coming before the court of law. And you get to be a sort of a wise old aunt or uncle or a grandparent in this situation. Because your purpose is not to find a way for the person to sort of pay for their crime, but rather your purpose is really to help that person restore, and here's the restore of restorative justice, restore their own feeling of self-worth, and to find an activity that will help to heal them and also to help heal the road ahead. Because in some cases, you really feel like the arrest might be a turning point for that person. And that perhaps we really have an opportunity to help steer this person towards a better version of themselves than they currently know exists. So I'd like to just tell you about two cases that we had to give you an example. In one case, a young man was arrested for a drunken brawl. Now, frankly, I think it's unlikely that you get arrested for a drunken brawl the very first time that you drink. So it's probable that this person has some history with alcohol. And so our task was to ensure that this person gets an evaluation and to write in that he must follow actually the recommendations of the evaluation. And then to think of a form of community justice that will allow this young man to see that he can actually be a useful contributor to the community and to restore his place in the community. In another case, we had a young woman who had been arrested for stealing something absurdly small, but she did steal. And what was remarkable about her was that she was absolutely sick about it and incredibly ashamed. And the worst thing for her was that she was horrified that she was now a bad example for her 5-year-old daughter. And what would this daughter think? And what would this daughter learn? So in that case, as part of her restoration, we asked her to write a letter to her daughter that she would seal and then give to her daughter when her daughter was old enough to read it. So basically for us, as we learned how to be an effective panel, we understood that success for the panel was to have a person leave the meeting feeling like there was a future for them, restored through justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Manya. Next, let me find my place. Thank you. Next is Liam Batchus Greenwood. Liam has earned a master's in divinity, serving as pastor for 25 years, and a master's in special education, serving as a teacher for 10 years. He currently combines these roles as the social and emotional leader at the Middlebury Union Middle School, and he's well known to us as a member of this congregation. Liam, thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. In some ways, I feel like I'm a bookend with Tracey, returning us back to school. And I appreciate what Danielle and Manya have had to say. And I'd like to say we practice similar movements at the middle school. We've recently shifted from a practice called Restrictive Lunch to Restorative Lunch. A couple years ago, Restricted Lunch was called Restricted because it was a form of detention. If you had been disrespectful, disruptive, or non-compliant in some way, and the teacher got so frustrated, then you would be assigned Restricted Lunch. And you were restricted to a little cinder block room to sit in silence under the supervision of a teacher, and you were isolated from your peers. In many ways, it was practiced incarceration, that you were isolated from society. You were considered, this form of timeout was used as a deterrent. If you don't follow the rules and if you don't follow along with directions, then I'm going to give you restrictive lunch and you can work it out there. Now, instead of restrictive lunch, we practice restorative lunch. Restorative, believing that all behavior sends a message as to what a person needs, as to what a person is trying to solve or work out in their life. And so we slow down and we talk to the students about what is happening and what were they thinking at the time. What were they thinking at the time? That's the first question in restorative conversation. What were you thinking at the time? Oh, it's different than what were you thinking? It's more, what were you thinking? What was going on? What was happening in your life? Were you frustrated with something at home? Is it something that was between you and your friends? Is the curriculum accessible to you? Are you frustrated in some other way? Are you needing a brain break away from your screens and your desk? What were you thinking? I offer students a safe place to explain their situation, and I try my best to empathize with them. Empathize with them and understand the situation from their perspective. Why? Because I believe that by trying to empathize with them, I help them understand themselves, for them to empathize with themselves. And that is the first step that's necessary before I push them or invite them to empathize with others. Oftentimes we as teachers or others, we try our best to say, what did you do that for? Look at how you hurt your sister. Look at how you hurt your brother. And we want to force people to empathize with others, but they first have to care about themselves and to understand themselves. And then to be asked, and now can you empathize with others in your situation? And that's, to me, the essence of restorative conversations, is to build empathy. We build empathy for the person that would otherwise be labeled as a bad kid or the problem child or the troublemaker. We build empathy. They build empathy with themselves, understanding what's going on in my life, what concerns am I facing? And then they build empathy with those around them. It's not easy in a culture that has so many forces eroding our capacity for empathy. We don't spend 3 meals a day around a table talking with each other. We don't have times of leisure conversation. We silo each other in screens of information that don't provide empathy. We practice politics in a way that is about shooting down each other's opinion. It's a little bit like a video game of seeing other people as targets and that you can easily dismiss. To practice empathy in many ways has become countercultural. And yet, if we're going to have a safe, compassionate, and effective society or democracy, it starts with restorative conversations. And I'd like to suggest that maybe it starts in middle school. Tracey might say, no, it starts in elementary. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Margie, I have to ask you, I've lost my screen. Can everybody see me?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay, I can
There's
hear
no
everything.
escape. We can see you whether you like it or not.
All right. How do I look? How's my hair?
You look gorgeous as
All
always.
right. Okay. Well, something has happened. So I will be articulate, if not beautiful, at least from my own view. Thank you very much, Liam. That was very interesting and moving. Our last speaker is Colleen Brown. Colleen has been a member of CVUUS and has served in several leadership positions here since the spring of 2000. During that same time, she has also served as the U.S. bankruptcy judge for the District of Vermont. She will share a reflection today about how she draws on the fundamental principles of restorative justice in addressing the issues brought before her in bankruptcy cases.
Good morning. My name is Colleen Brown, and I'd like to share with you this morning my understanding of restorative justice, why I think it's important, and how I rely on it as my touchstone in my work as the U.S. bankruptcy judge for the District of Vermont. At its core, restorative justice contemplates the healing of individuals and communities through acknowledgement, repair, and reintegration. That aligns with bankruptcy cases where debtors are permitted to pay back that portion of their debt they can afford, have the balance of their debt forgiven, and then emerge from bankruptcy with a fresh start. Many of you have heard me talk about my work, the unique nature of bankruptcy relief, and how I find it to be so professionally and spiritually satisfying. The primary purpose of the Bankruptcy Code is to provide people and businesses who are in debt the time and space they need, free from the pressure of their creditors, to figure out how to put their financial life back together, formulate a sustainable path forward, and then start over. As a judge, I'm charged with dispensing justice. As a bankruptcy judge, and especially as one who believes strongly in restorative justice, I strive to issue decisions that are not only just, but fair. And that's where restorative justice comes in. As the 20th century social philosopher John Rawls wrote in his book, A Theory of Justice, restorative justice is understood as a contrast to retributive justice by deflecting the emphasis away from punishment and toward healing. I find A Theory of Justice to be compelling, and I've internalized Rawls' vision of how essential fairness is to any truly just outcome. It's important to point out as well that the vast majority of people or companies that I have before me in the courtroom are there because of circumstances that were largely beyond their control. This is especially true for debtors who are individuals and seek bankruptcy relief. Their financial reversals most often arise as a result of unemployment, uninsured medical expenses, or divorce. None of these factors diminish their inherent worth or dignity. During my time as a bankruptcy attorney, I regularly had clients in my office crying or expressing a deep sense of shame because they could not pay their bills, they could not provide sufficiently for their families. Their sense of shame often caused them to disconnect from friends and community. They felt they would never be able to get out from under their financial pressure, and sometimes that was true if they hadn't had bankruptcy relief. Their right to file for bankruptcy is a long-standing right that arises from our U.S. Constitution, and it is there especially to provide relief in these situations. It was very rewarding work for me to work with these clients so they could achieve a fresh start and relief from their debt, restore their financial finances, and begin rebuilding their sense of self-esteem. Now, in my role as a bankruptcy court judge, I have the discretion to decide which values will guide my analysis in each of the cases before me. I regularly choose to apply restorative justice principles to identify the best outcome in the case. I do my best to exercise that discretion in a way that will help the debtors who come before me to restore a sense of balance in their lives, to restore their sense of self-esteem and self-sufficiency, and to resume their role as a contributing member of society. My goal in restorative justice terms is to create a situation in which that person or business can succeed going forward and feel reintegrated into all aspects of their community. To paraphrase Robin Wall Kimmerer, we all need acts of restoration to heal our relationship to the world. We need to restore honor to the way we live so that when we walk through the world, we don't have to avert our eyes with shame. We can hold our heads up high and receive respectful acknowledgement from all other earth beings. I hope that my work granting the fresh starts authorized under bankruptcy law will, in some small way, promote the healing, reconnection, reintegration, and community building that we and our neighbors need. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Maya, Liam, and Danielle. I'm back. My technical associate, who was upstairs watching her on her own, came down and said, just hit that button right down at the bottom, and your screen will come back. So technically, I'm exposed. Our hymn today is a great favorite, We'll Build a Land. While Kate plays it, the words will appear on your screen. You can sing along, or just follow the inspiring words. Our closing words will be offered by a group called the Conscious Collective from Nashville. And I trust it will help take us through this fraught week with strength and grace. First, though, thanks to Margie Young, our tech guru, to Richard Hopkins, this week's gatherer of service elements, Jordan Young, who will organize our virtual coffee hour, Tracey for her wise words, the remarkable Kate Gridley for the music and accompanying images. If you would like to be in a breakout group with Manya, please indicate to Jordan, and that can be done. Now, it's time to vote.
History's a nasty lesson to learn. Some folks smile while they watch you burn. Night is day and day is night. If we're gonna make this thing right, we've got to vote. We are counting on you. Vote. Some folks judge by the group you're in, where you live and your shade of skin. Right is wrong and wrong is right. We can never give up this fight. We've got to vote. We are counting on you. Vote. Vote is your right. Vote. We are obligated to those who give their lives. Gave their lives to give you the power of choice. Raise your voice. One thing is undeniably true. You need us and we need you. Join this march on a righteous cause. Love is an unstoppable force in